Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. Today I am going to show you how I made this simple shift dress. It does not have a side seam, but it has a front and a back seam. So guys, we will be needing a pattern paper for this. We cannot draft directly on the fabric. Let's get to it. So you're going to need a long and a wide paper for this. Now the first thing you're going to do is to measure down from the back of your neck, the nape of your neck, down to where you want the sleeve to be. I want about 23 inches. So I'm going to measure down 23 inches and draw it into a straight line. This line will automatically be my waistline. So from this line, I'm going to measure up the distance between my shoulder to my waist. So my shoulder to my waist is 15 inches. I'll put 15 inches on this line and I'll measure upward. So now on this line, I'm going to take my shoulder measurement. My shoulder measurement is 15 divided by 2, that is 7.5. I'll measure 7.5. Now for the neck depth, for the back, I will use 1 inch. And for the front, I'll use 3.75 inches. For the neck width, I will use 4 inches. And then I'll connect it. So this first line is my back neckline and this is the front neckline. Now, on this 7-inch mark, I will mark 1 inch downward. That is the shoulder slant. Now I'm going to connect the shoulder slant. So for the width of the waistline, remember that what I measured from here to this line is 23, right? I'll take 3 inches away. That will be 20 inches. So I mark 20 inches on this line. And then I'm going to connect this shoulder slant to this. For the length of the dress, I want about 37 inches. Draw a straight line. On that straight line, I'll measure what I want my M line to be. On the M line, I'll measure 9 inches, which is my hip measurement divided by 4 minus 1. Then I'll connect here to here. So guys, this is the back pattern. This is the center back. I'll be adding a 1 inch seam allowance for the center back. So now I'm going to cut out the neckline up to the shoulder slant. I'll cut the back neckline. Now I'm going to cut on this line up to here. Now what I'm going to do is to flip it over so that I can get the front pattern like this. You see, I'm following this line. So what I'm going to do now is just to trace out this. So guys, you see it. The only thing I have left to do here is to cut the neckline for the front because the one for the front is deeper than the one for the back. So what I'll do is this. I'm going to use my tracing wheel to mark it. So I'll mark it first here. Now that I can trace it, I can see what it is like here. I'm going to trace it here. Sorry guys, I had to have traced out this line. This is the seam allowance, so I'll just cut it out and I'll retrace it. I'll use a 1 inch seam allowance. Now retrace the front. I'm sorry guys. Okay. So this is it. This first one is not valid. This is my neckline. So this is the front and this is the back. Now I am going to do the same thing for this part. Cut this space out. And then we flip it over like we did for the front. Then I can trace it out the same way I traced this one out. Like this. So this is my pattern. This is the front and this is the back. I already added a seam allowance to the back, and that will also work for this area. But for this side, I'm going to add a 1-inch seam allowance. Then for the bottom area too, I'll add a 1-inch seam allowance. That'll be the M. I'll add that on the fabric. Now I'll cut out the whole of the pattern. Alright guys, so this is my pattern. When I'm cutting on the fabric, I'll have 1-inch M allowance, 1-inch M allowance. I'm writing this so that I don't forget. For the neckline for the back, the shoulder area, and the neckline for the front, I'll have a 0.5-inch seam allowance, okay? So I'm putting the arrows so that I don't forget when I'm cutting. Now this is how the dress will be. The front hair will overlap, and that is the seam allowance, okay? That's going to be the seam allowance. So when I fold it like this, when I fold it this way, it will match up. All right, you see? So this side will be my sleeve. So what I'm going to do is I'll cut it out on the fabric. But before then, for the sleeve opening, from this intersection here, so I'll mark 3 inches upward, 3 inches downward, and this is going to be my sleeve opening. Okay, so when it's like this, I'm opening the hair for my sleeve. Alright, so I'm going to cut it out on the fabric and then I'll show you how to sew it. But remember, you cut 0.5 inches above the neckline and the shoulder area. 1 inch here, okay? So this is the pattern, and I folded my fabric into 2. Now I'm going to cut it out. You fold your fabric into 2 and not 4. Because on this pattern we have half of the back and half of the front already. I've also cut the facing, so I'll be putting the facing on the neck. You can put a bias tape if you don't want a facing. You know, this is the neckline for the back, and that is where the opening will be. I'll be adding the button. You can put a zipper if you want. So I'll measure down from here about 7 inches and leave that as the opening for the back. Now from here, alright, I'm going to sew straight down. So that means that I am sewing down the center back. After doing that, the next thing I'll do is to sew this part. Alright, so this is the shoulder area. You know, this is the neck width, right? So I'm going to sew this place it will be like we are sewing a dart. So I'm going to lift it up this way, and then I'll sew 0.5 inch like this, 0.5 inch on the other side as well. This one, I'll put it together and sew 0.5 inch. Okay, now after doing that, I'll also sew this shoulder area on the facing. All right guys, so I've sewn here. This is the center back. I have sewn it, and this is the neckline. I've sewn it as well together with the facing. I'll be putting a button. Okay, this is the center back here. Now I am going to take this part, bring it this way, and I'll also take this part, bring it this way. Okay, so you see it's forming like a triangle. The first thing I'll do is to sew these two together. I'll put it together like this, and then I'll sew from here. You stop at about 4 inches before the edge. You do the second part as well. Bring it like this. This is the shoulder area. And like this as well. Then you sew it also straight down up to about 4 inches before the edge. You leave the space. After sewing that, then we are going to sew the center front. Okay guys, so I've sewn this part. Now the last thing I'll do is to sew the center front. So I have to ensure that these seams match. Okay, the seams here match, and the one at the neckline also, I have to ensure it matches. So I'll sew it from the bottom. All right, so from the bottom you have to sew it up to the neckline, including the facing. Mind you, I have understitched the facing as well. So from the facing straight down up to the hem, that's 1 inch seam allowance. And after that, I am going to hem the bottom, and that will be the end of the tutorial. Then you can iron, put your button where necessary. So thank you very much for watching this tutorial. I hope it was helpful. Please like, share, subscribe. See you next time. Bye.